Voluntarily or not, people move. Approximately 281 million reside outside of their birthplace, and this number is constantly increasing. When a group of people gets together in the same location that's different from their original homeland, such a community is called a diaspora. The term diaspora is derived from the Greek and translates as to sow over, to scatter. It was originally used to explain the dispersal of Jews from their historical homeland. Nowadays, the term is applied to various nationalities. What's common to all diasporas is the attempt to maintain their cultural identity. And for this purpose, they establish all kinds of support organizations in the host countries, from churches, museums, and cultural centers to banks and credit unions. These structures are always there to help new immigrants feel at home even thousands of miles away. Very little attention has been paid to the influence diaspora can have when a conflict happens in their home country. Let's examine if their involvement contributes to the resolution or worsens the situation. Since most wars today are fought in underdeveloped and poor areas, diasporas can raise money and transfer it to their homeland. Even during peaceful times, the money migrants send home is usually a lifeline for their families. Remittances help cover necessities like food, emergencies, and medical expenses. In times of crisis, financial help from the diaspora is more important than ever. According to the World Bank, Ukraine was the largest recipient of remittances in Europe, estimated at $18.2 billion last year, and it's expected to increase by 20% this year. Economic support is also vital in the post-conflict time. That's when the diaspora can invest heavily in its homeland to boost the economy and help rebuild the country. Besides financial support, different diaspora organizations can also lobby the host country's government to shape policies in favor of their homeland, or to challenge the government and give financial support to political parties and social movements. 11 organizations were registered in the United States to work on behalf of Ukraine in 2021. Ukrainian lobbyists contacted members of Congress 13,541 times last year, according to Quincy Institute for Reasonable Statecraft. To put this in perspective, the Saudi lobby, known for being one of the largest foreign lobbies in DC, reported 2,834 contacts, not even a quarter of what Ukraine's agents have done. Another way diasporas may influence the conflict in their home country is by advocating for an economic boycott of the enemy state's products. They hope to weaken that country's capacity to wage war. Arab countries have been boycotting Israeli goods and services for years. The Ukrainian World Congress called all Ukrainians around the world and their friends to boycott Russian goods and services, and they pressure international companies to withdraw from the Russian market. We also witnessed demonstrations happening in big cities of the Western world, organized by the diaspora in support of their birth country or against the government back home. Protesters take to the streets to spread awareness and demand attention or action from the authorities. In most cases, government officials respond with support of the diaspora's demands. This creates an illusion of tail wagging the dog. But how is it that every time the diaspora's interests match with the interests of imperialist powers? Maybe diasporas are being used to promote the ruling class agenda along with intelligence agencies and media propaganda. Two of the most recent diaspora involvements are Ukrainian and Iranian. Both received overwhelming support from the general population and the government, even though the conflicts were completely different. The Ukrainian diaspora is demonstrating in support of the ruling class back home and to get help from Western countries in their fight with Russia. Iranian diaspora, on the other hand, is protesting against the regime of their homeland. They are not asking to help their country, but to sanction them, hoping that international boycotts and pressure would help the people of Iran to overthrow their government. And these demands are exactly what Western imperialist powers want. It's not surprising that the US and their allies have done so much to help Ukraine. They were meddling there for a while to prevent Russian influence over the country. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russia was the enemy number one. That's why the pro-Russia government had to be overthrown. But the coup d'etat of 2014 was not enough. A full-fledged war was required to weaken Russia. This proxy war is very beneficial for the US. Military-industrial complex can use Ukraine as a weapon testing ground. Politicians can do their money laundering, and the imperialist power can keep their status quo. Unfortunately, the Ukrainian diaspora doesn't realize how they are used to promote the interests of the elite. Iran is another enemy of the West. Therefore, all kinds of methods are used to accomplish what was done in Ukraine, the overthrow of the government. The way diaspora is used is not just in demonstrations, but also in social media propaganda. Thousands of fake stories and claims are spread online, and even though later debunked, the damage had been already done, all to push the official narrative. Somehow we don't see the Saudi diaspora protesting with demands to free women of their country from mandatory hijabs. Only those diasporas are allowed to demonstrate whose home countries are on the enemy list of the United States. So the good and the bad of diasporas are nothing compared to the ugly imperialist powers using immigrants to promote their agenda.